Free marketing. Sign me up. Episode 108. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, Moshe Amsel, and today you have another amazing guest interview. Normally we have a solo episode on a Tuesday, but this is a special week, and that is because we have spent over a month talking about information products and how you can use information products in your law firm to leverage your firm, to leverage the knowledge that you have, to increase the impact capability that you have, to create free marketing opportunities for your law firm. Covered a ton of benefits. We've interviewed a bunch of people, and we're going to bring you some more interviews this week, including today's, and there's going to be a bonus episode tomorrow. So you've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days in a row with an interview being brought to you, and we are still focusing on information products just for this week alone, and then next week we will jump into some new topics. But if you've been paying attention at all, if this is your first episode, then I definitely encourage you to go back to episode 96, 98, take the ride with us from there to really understand what we're talking about, and hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the content, enjoying the show, because we'd love to have you back for tomorrow and the day after, the next episode. So, but the program called Business by Design by James Wedmore, which is the ultimate Swiss Army knife toolkit for somebody who wants to create an information products business. He's marketing it to people who want to create a digital business completely, but it is perfect to learn how to implement the digital marketing, the digital CEO, the information product front end to your law firm that will literally continue to bring you clients without needing to work for them. I don't know how many of you even realize that I am the CEO of Dream Builder Financial, an accounting firm. We do zero advertising for Dream Builder Financial. All of our clients in the accounting firm, all our bookkeeping and accounting and payroll clients come from the work that I do on the podcast and the summits. People find out about me, and then they check me out. They find out that we have an accounting firm, and that brings us plenty of business that we just don't have to look for business. We don't have to pursue getting more clients. And that's the position I want you to be in with your law firm. So the program Business by Design is open for enrollment. It only opens once a year. It's only open until the 25th, so it's just a couple more days left. And we have a suite of bonuses that we're providing absolutely free if you sign up using our affiliate link. So we get a commission off the sale, but my motivation is not the commission from the sale. Trust me, when you see the bonuses, you'll see that it's really, I mean, we're providing $13,000 of value for signing up with our affiliate link into this program. And the reason that we're doing that is not because of the measly small commission that we're going to get off of your purchase of their product. The reason that we're doing that is because I believe that information products are going to change the landscape of how law firms operate, how lawyers operate in the marketplace. And I am envisioning the future for law, and I see what's happening with technology and the fight that technology companies have to have a place in the marketplace, where it feels to attorneys like they are undermining the work that we do. Like LegalZoom is the worst thing that can happen for law firms because now nobody's going to use a law firm to create an entity. The reality is that there are a number of people that go to LegalZoom, but there's still plenty of people who go to a lawyer to get their entity created. And if lawyers will get behind the idea that there are going to be people in the marketplace that require education, that need to come to their own decision about what to do, that need to be involved in that process, or maybe they can't afford it, they want to do it themselves to save money, that they should have access to do that. They should have access to be able to do that. And if you can embrace that, then you can ride that wave. You can be the one to provide that access. You can be the one to monetize and make the money in providing that access. And today's episode we're going to lead into with Sid Peddinti is a perfect example of exactly that, where you can get access to free money, to grants, to educate the population, to educate the people that will become your clients. And by educating first, selling second, you're going to draw people who want to work with you, people who are not going to be shopping around. So it's just a beautiful thing. Anyway, bonuses. If you sign up for BBD by going to profitwithlaw.com/BBD, which stands for Business by Design, you will see that we are offering a whole bunch of things, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. 90 days. If you want to work with me for 90 days, our 90-day law firm turnaround program is over $7,000 list. Even if you come in through our free coaching call, which you can go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching if you want to take us up on that offer. Even if you come in and do a free coaching session with me, on that call, you're going to be offered the 90-day law firm turnaround program. It'll be discounted to $5,880. So the lowest amount of money that you can pay to work with me for 90 days is just shy of $6,000. Well, I am opening up a 90-day pod, a 90-day group that I will be working with directly to help facilitate your entry into the information product arena and help you get your first information product into the marketplace. That 90-day group coaching program is going to be yours absolutely free. You will be meeting with me once a week to keep you moving forward, answer your questions, keep you on board with a plan, and make sure that you use the program to the best benefit that you can as a law firm owner. Along with that, we're also going to give away our LinkedIn blueprint. We have like an amazing workshop we did on how to use LinkedIn to get clients. Also, our Facebook ads course we're going to be giving with that. We're also going to be opening up a Facebook group for the people who join. So you'll have a community that is going through this process with you that you can talk to and collaborate with. Basically, you got to go to the page and check it out. A number of bonuses that are included there that you will get. So if this is something that you're thinking about doing, don't hesitate, don't wait, because the time is now. And come the 25th at midnight PST, Pacific time, you will not be able to get access to the program, and it will not be made available. Our bonuses are going to go away, and this entire opportunity will be gone until a year from now when they open it up again. So that is how he sells his product. He does it once a year, does a massive promotion. Last year, it was almost $5 million in business they sold during that promotion. This is not a beginner. This is somebody who has produced, well over 3,000 business owners through his program. So, and I am a living proof and testament of the Business by Design program. So enough about that. I want to jump into this interview with Sid. Enjoy the conversation. I love Sid's story. You're going to love it too. And I am personally working with Sid, creating our non-for-profit education center. So you're going to learn more about that in just a little while. But this is another amazing opportunity for you to think about how to position your law firm and to create this stream of new clients coming in a different way than you're probably doing today. So sit back and enjoy. Here you go.
We are highlighting what is possible with information products. And when I was putting this event together, there was a piece of it that was a no-brainer for me. And that was to bring Sid Peddinti on as a guest expert here. And the reason is because Sid is in a very unique place in his business where he helps businesses and specifically works with lawyers in getting free grants that will essentially make your marketing efforts free. And some of you are here specifically for this session. Some of you want to know, how do I get my marketing paid for? And if you're outside of the United States, you're going to be glad to find out that Sid has been doing this in multiple countries. So if it's not available in your country, maybe they're willing to work with you and do that. But there's definitely a number of countries that they're already doing it in. And I know we have an international presence here today. So I want to make sure that you understand that this is intended to be something that is for everybody. And hopefully you all get something out of this. Sid, welcome to the summit.
Thanks for having me here.
So, Sid, I want to, before we go into the actual topic, which is an amazing one, and it's mind-blowing every time I think about it, and every time I see you posting about one of your clients' results, can you just give us a little bit of a backstory of how you got to where you are, so that we get to know who you are and a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely. And, I think that's important as well to understand how I ended up here. So originally, my name is Siddhartha. I'm from India, grew up in the Middle East, all across the Middle East, born and raised in Dubai, ended up in Canada in my teenage years, went to law school at LSE in London, and then finally ended up doing an LLM program in IP law in Los Angeles. But when I was in Toronto around 2002 to 2005, I had a very successful business when I was in university. And I consider myself an entrepreneur by trade. I accidentally ended up in law, which was not planned at all. So I had a very successful bakery. We were producing bread, tortillas, roti, all kinds of ethnic and international bread products. And when I was in university, this was in 3 years, we hit over $5 million. Very, very successful. My dad and I ran the store. And right around the time of the recession, 2005, there were a few banks that were financing all these equipment, my bakery equipment, huge ovens and, assembly line type freezing equipment and packaging, multi-million-dollar practice, factory. We had about 15 employees. And I show up one day to my factory and there was a sheriff and the landlord blocking the entrance with this massive excavator. And he slapped me with a court order that said, we're going to repossess everything that you have here, shut you down. And to me, that was baffling. I thought they had the wrong place because we were very successful. We were very profitable. All the bills were on time. And what ended up happening was that the banks that were financing my equipment went broke. And so they went into bankruptcy mode. And so because of that, they had a court order. The guy ended up literally shutting me down and I didn't know what to do. And so I found myself in a bankruptcy lawyer's office within the next week to write off. And that's what they said, go declare bankruptcy. There's nothing else we can do. So I went there. And that was my graduation gift for my undergrad in Toronto. All my buddies were getting accounting jobs and the big four. And here I was just ending up declaring bankruptcy, 23 years old, 22, 23. And so that's how I ended up, I didn't have a job. I just got stripped of my position as a CEO. And so I asked the lawyer if he has a position there. And he goes, yeah, there's a lady who's going on maternity leave on the front desk. I can give you her position. And I was like, you know what, I'll take it, tucked my tail between my legs and became a receptionist at the bankruptcy lawyer's office. And then I realized that there were a lot of people, and nobody could have predicted the 2005 recession, just like what's happening in the economy now. But I realized that there was a lot of good-hearted, hardworking entrepreneurs, small business owners, lawyers, doctors, I mean, from every industry that were in that position where they were getting businesses going under because of what was happening in the market. So that prompted me to start a bankruptcy practice, and eventually one thing led to another. Went to law school, started a bankruptcy firm, did over 10,000 small business bankruptcies. And eventually around 2015, about 5, 6 years ago, I realized that I needed to use that experience, the insights that I gained as a bankruptcy lawyer of why businesses go broke, and try to find a model that was, in my mind, truly recession proof. So that's where I went on a quest to find a business model that anybody could use across different industries on how they can build a sustainable business where they're going to be profitable, where they love to do what they want to do, and at the same time enjoy, being able to make an impact. And so that led me to venture into the world of nonprofits, which we've all heard about for many, many years. And, the grants that are available for nonprofits. I realized there were very few people who understood how that worked in the first place. And it took me a couple of years to put all the dots together, and people were giving me the runaround. Attorneys were doing the legal paperwork. Grant experts just did that. The website gurus in the nonprofit space just did that. And so I was like, maybe this is my calling to find out a model, fuse all these things together where this is what I do. And so that's how I ended up doing what I do now, almost accidentally, but it was a journey, into finding the gaps in the market. And then as an entrepreneur, I'm a problem solver. As lawyers, we're problem solvers. And, luckily this experience led me to do what I do now, which has been very fulfilling.
This is an amazing story. And I didn't know that story that you shared about the bakery business. It's mind-boggling. Like to the lay person, nobody would ever think that if you're doing everything you're supposed to, you're the model citizen, that you can have everything ripped out from underneath you. And it just goes to show that what you don't know can really hurt you. And that,
Absolutely.
as lawyers here, that's your job. Your job is to educate the public on the risks that they have, because they don't know what those risks are. And the education starts early in the journey, not when they need you, but before that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this whole idea of information products in your law firm, because it gives you a platform. It gives you a place to be able to educate and to share your knowledge and your expertise with the public when they don't realize that they need it. And this plays so perfectly into what you do, Sid, that we couldn't have teed it up better for you. So Sid is the founder of Grants for Lawyers, and essentially what they do is they help you get grants by establishing a nonprofit education entity that's the front arm of your marketing for your business. So let's jump right in, Sid, and explain to us how that works and where these grants come from, and we can start to talk about what that might look like for somebody who's setting out on this journey of creating a information products line for their law firm.
Absolutely. And, something you said there was very important, which is people don't know what they need, which was exactly my case. I mean, I had no clue about the legalities, the paperwork, owning my equipment, the contingencies. And yes, I had a lawyer that did my paperwork at the time and set everything up, but this was something unpredictable. And so eventually a couple of years ago, when I started, went on that quest of educating the public, business owners, on what the different rules are, how trademarks work, how to set up their business, what to have in their contract. That was my end vision. I wanted to educate business owners, and I started hosting workshops. I started, hosting videos, and it started out, just wanting to share the information, the insights that I've gained in the industry by doing what I do and through my own journey, and remembering all those different puzzle pieces that were missing, even as a business owner, even as a 7-figure business owner in my early 20s. I still didn't have all the pieces together. And that's the reality for most business owners, even lawyers, even doctors. I mean, no matter what industry you touch upon. So at the end of the day, I mean, as lawyers, before any transaction happens, whether you're in bankruptcy, whether you're in personal injury, employment, whatever, there's obviously a component of educating someone about what they need and why your services, your law firm is the right fit. And so that's really what happens in the nonprofit world, especially a nonprofit education center, where you have the ability to create content, whether they are going to be blogs, articles, whether there's going to be videos, a podcast, workshops, courses, programs, I mean, what have you. Think about a university. Think about, the bar associations. These are all structured as nonprofit organizations. And the myth around nonprofits is that you have to give everything away. You cannot make any money, which is not true. Think about universities. These are multi-billion-dollar organizations that pay their employees very well. Professors are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Deans, in some cases, are paid millions of dollars for what they do. And ultimately, education is power, right? The knowledge is power. Like I think Nelson Mandela said that knowledge is the key to change, global change. And with everything going on right now in the world, people are realizing that they need to get more knowledge. And especially with the internet, that has obviously changed the way people consume knowledge. So even as a lawyer, the first intro point in educating somebody, getting in front of your clients, happens to be that piece of content that they come across, whether it's through Google search, whether it's on Facebook, whether they are getting a referral from their friends about what lawyer to speak to. The first intro call, imagine that first sales call, so to speak, that happens where the lawyer is educating somebody on, okay, what is your situation? What can I do for you? What are the solutions that I can do for you? Imagine that entire piece being structured into the nonprofit, where you have courses, where you have free content, whether it's, again, like I said, trademarks, patents, business law, no matter what it is. Imagine that consumable product that you have to offer, the information goes out to a client. And the beauty about the nonprofit world is that there are grants available. Just in the US, Moshe, I don't know if you know this, but just in the US, I'm not even talking globally, over $200 billion per year is dedicated towards educational nonprofit organizations, which is massive, right?
Huge. I had no idea. That number is it's mind-boggling to
It
say the
is.
least, right?
And whether people apply or not, big companies, the government, states, the nonprofit organizations, funds put aside for this and given away. So at end of the year, many people don't know about it, so they don't apply for it, or they have this myth that, hey, nonprofits are really complex organizations, or therefore large companies that want to give money away. Well, in almost every country that I've been operating now in the past 5 years, I've done this across 20 different countries. Every country has a category of nonprofits that is dedicated towards education. And when you give away education, no matter what field it's in, you're giving the gift of knowledge to someone. Whether they choose to deal with you or not, it's still changing perspective. It's being, making somebody aware of something that they're already looking for. And what I've discovered over the years, and what I've kind of, at this point gotten down to a science and art, is how to convince large tech companies like Google and Facebook and LinkedIn and Amazon and Microsoft, Oracle, Toyota. I mean, all the Fortune 500 companies give away billions of dollars every single year towards nonprofits that are out there in the market, educating people, having an impact, giving away philanthropic missions, changing lives. And so all of those things can be done in fusion with a law firm, a small business. So that's kind of what I do, is helping people understand, business owners, small business owners like you and I, and people listening, that, having a nonprofit is actually advantageous to your business, because it not only helps you set yourself apart from your competitors. Imagine somebody goes in to Google looking for a lawyer, and there's a law firm that just does what they do, and there's a law firm that has this nonprofit educational component that is having impact and changing lives and giving away money to philanthropy, what would you choose, right? You know where your money is going. You know that there's an impact side of it. And so that's really the model that I kind of help small business owners and lawyers understand and fuse into their practices.
Yeah, it's this. Every time I hear you talk about it, it renews my my excitement over the possibilities, because one of the hardest things for a law firm to do is to bring in clients without. Okay, so let me take a step back. Most law firm owners are concerned about the competition.
Yes.
I set my prices based on what other people are charging. I am constantly thinking that, you know, I need to take clients away from the other one in order to grow my client base. And the analogy to this is a pizza pie, right? So you have a pizza pie and everybody gets a piece of the pie, and the pie is a certain size, and that's it. What this does is it allows you to make the pie bigger. So instead of needing to compete with other people to find the same clients, by putting an information product out there, you can find people who don't know they have a problem yet, or they're earlier in their stages of the problem. For example, somebody is going to get a divorce, right? When they're ready to get a divorce, they've been, you know, at odds with their spouse for years before that happens, right? You have a huge opportunity during those years before that to be there to educate them on how to improve their marriage and how to navigate that, and collaborate with people to effectuate positive changes in their life. But because it's all coming from your law firm, by the time they're ready to get divorced, who are they going to go to? They're going to you.
Absolutely.
So you've expanded the pie, and all along you can make money through this process. So you can start off with free education, and then you can sell them a paid product that continues that education process and collect on that. And eventually some of them will filter in as clients into your law firm. And you told me one thing that at the beginning, but in the green room before we started, that you don't spend a penny on advertising. And
Right.
I think that people need to hear that, right? People need to, like, your ears should be perking up right now, because we're going to talk about this, and I want to go into this in depth. What does it look like for somebody who sets this up properly to not have to pay a penny on advertising ever again?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible opportunity. You know, when I discovered this, uh, prior to that, in my law firm, I was doing what all the lawyers are doing, and I was spending a lot of money. You know, in my bankruptcy practice, I was spending upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 a month just to stay competitive. Otherwise, I was going to be, you know, squashed out of the market. And so when I discovered the power of the free grants that are available from these companies, and realized that, hey, if I can educate people ahead of the game, I mean, I created this blue ocean. And for me, it's all about creating blue oceans and staying in an area that there's nobody else in. And this is so early on in the legal industry that, you know, in my opinion, every lawyer should tap into this, because you are able to separate yourself from the red ocean, that where there are a lot of huge sharks. And, you know, as soon as I started getting funding, I mean, I was all of a sudden competing with very large companies, running a small practice with a few paralegals, almost virtually. And, you know, once the grants come in, you're talking about being funded, for example, Google's program of $10,000 a month that they give to educational nonprofit organizations. I mean, $10,000 potentially forever. There's no expiry on it, month after month. You don't have to reapply. You just set it up. As long as you're educating people the right way, Google turns around every month, gives you a pat on the back for your amazing work. So, you know, prior to that process in my law firm, I had hundreds of consultations per year that never amounted to business being, you know, converted into business, and nobody cared. You know, the clients don't care. Nobody's looking at you and saying, great work for your amazing work out there. And that hit me. So now imagine where, you know, you have hundreds of people taking these courses on literally every topic, or in the case of divorce, how to avoid a divorce, or legalities about divorce, or what do you do after it, on bankruptcy, why people go bankrupt, or how the bankruptcy laws work, or how that affects a particular situation. And that can be in any industry, right? The educational component that happens prior to a sale. But now you're getting recognition for it from the government, who turns around and says, great job, thanks for your amazing work, keep going, we're not going to charge you any tax on what you do. Plus companies who are giving you the funding, who say, great job, thanks for your amazing work, we see that you've impacted X number of people every year. So what you're effectively doing is breaking your sales process down, what you're already doing in your law firm, into different components, and getting recognition even for the free work that you're putting out there, the sales calls that are not sales calls anymore, that are educational pieces. And we all know that if somebody wants to hire you, generally they need to know you, they need to understand you, be comfortable. And that component happens through the nonprofit educational organization, where if they think that you do a good job, obviously, in educating, chances are they're going to hire you. So ever since I've discovered this, I've had more clients than I could ever imagine. And again, with the free funding that comes in, I don't even have to pay for clients anymore, because those people that end up taking my courses, reading my blogs, or reading my articles, or whatever, end up naturally hiring me. They're like, hey, thanks for this information, I've got educated, you're the right guy for the job. And so I've been able to retain, realistically, lifetime customers who just keep repeating. And and that's the power of this process, where you don't have to pay for clients, and naturally it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
The possibilities are endless. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking that, there's certain, I'm in the US, right? And you're in the US. In the United States, the advertising is probably the most expensive online than it is anywhere in the world.
Yep.
I know that it costs me to bring an attorney into this program and to this summit, to find that lead and to bring it in, costs me somewhere between $20 and $35 per lead, right? Yeah. And to bring somebody in from anywhere else, Canada, Australia, the UK, India, Pakistan, Lebanon, you name it. We have people from all over the place. To bring in leads from there cost me $1, $2, $3. Wow. So I'm already seeing the power for our international folks that are here. When somebody in the US gets $10,000 from Google, it's going to go a certain distance, right? And that's it. But if you're in another country and you get $10,000 from Google, or if you have an international practice where you can target other countries, this could be huge for you. Like what I can do with $10,000 a month with our international presence now is just mind-boggling. And that's just Google, right? So there's other companies that have money available.
Absolutely.
One of my clients is a PI attorney, and one of the things that they're doing is they're building this entire funnel aimed at parents of teen drivers. And the more that we're talking about this, the more I keep thinking about him, because he's got this massive investment he's making in an education program that has nothing to do with personal injury. Right. It's just assuming that this demographic is going to get into car accidents. And if you're positioning yourself as the educator, eventually that business is going to start coming. And that's a perfect example where you're going into a very specific niche, a very specific area where you can educate, and that education is going to turn around and come back to you into your practice. So even if you don't do information products as a business, even if you don't add that as a paid item, that's still the new way that everyone's going to have to be marketing eventually. The referrals can only get you so far, and everyone knows that. Like, you build your practice on referrals, and then at some point you're like, okay, I can't control these referrals. I don't know when the next referral is coming in. So what do I do now? And that's when we start looking at all these other marketing efforts. So basically, if you position yourself in this place where you're educating the market and you're giving them this complete education piece and increasing their knowledge, it puts you in a position of authority. And you know what that does is it actually it gives you something that you probably wanted and have not been able to achieve as a practitioner. Most people who, when they start their law firms, they have visions of changing the world, whether it's their personal world because they're expecting to, make a lot of money and be able to have a different life, or you actually want to make massive change. Like one of my clients, one of my previous clients is a front runner in the women's rights activist movement. She was, the person who at the front of putting Harvey Weinstein behind bars. And not every attorney gets to do that. Not every attorney gets to be standing and holding the flag of an issue that you're passionate about. And this is a way to give you some of the fuel that you need, some of the ammunition that you need to be able to create the platform that's required to effectuate that level of change. And some of you are like, okay, I don't need to be, making massive change. I just want to be successful in my own life. And I can even start to see how there could be tax benefits to doing this, right? There could be ways that you structure between the nonprofit and your law firm where you can control a little bit better what's happening as far as the revenue coming in and the expenses going out, and kind of marry the two in a way that you're justifying where some of the money coming in maybe belongs to the nonprofit and helps fuel the nonprofit's mission.
Absolutely.
As opposed to going into the law firm where it gets taxed.
Absolutely.
So I can't see a reason why people shouldn't do this. So what's the challenge, Sid, when it comes to I think we've pretty much sold everybody on the fact that if you set up a nonprofit and you get grants from these major companies, that's going to help propel you further. And you mentioned Toyota, and I'm thinking of my parents for teen drivers, attorney, and I'm thinking, okay, there's another source of a grant for him. But if you're sold, you're like, okay, I want to do this. How do we navigate that, and where do you fit in that picture?
Yeah, good question. Having been in that journey, just like other attorneys watching this, where a couple of years ago, I was like, well, this is what I needed to do. I need to start educating people. And I went around hunting for different experts in the market. And what I found was that there are a lot of gaps in the market in terms of how to go about this process. And, that may be true in some other industries as well, where there are specialists who only deal with what they do, which is good in one sense that everybody wants to be a specialist, not a generalist. But in this nonprofit world, because it's not really talked about, because if Google wanted to put on Google search, apply for a grant, they could easily do that, but they don't do that. They, Facebook or Apple or Toyota or Dell or anybody, they all have grant programs, but nobody advertises it. Nobody advocates for it actively. So it's almost as, in my opinion, I call this the IRS or the CRA in Canada, their biggest secrets. And there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that need to fit in order. So what I've done was created a program that essentially takes people down this journey, step by step, A through Z, all the way, in terms of how do you set up the right structure? How do you understand the type of content that you want to put out there? And we have templates, and we've created so many things now after experimenting this with literally over 100 different niches, not just lawyers, but we've tested this with doctors, we've tested this with accountants, educators, all different industries. I wanted to prove that this model works across the board, and it works really well, very successfully. But for attorneys, I think it's a massive benefit because they have products or services that not only change lives in a very direct way, but also have a deep impact. So it's really about going through the process, just like what we tell our clients as attorneys. Hey, don't skip any steps, otherwise things later down there's no control. Same thing applies here in the nonprofit world. make sure that you understand how to go through each step of the process in a very systematic, organized way so that you cross all the T's, you dot all the I's, and once you have a base template set up, I mean, you can keep expanding. Where I started a few years ago, just in having courses on trademarks or on business law or contracts. I mean, we are in so many different industries. I have learned so many things now because I'm not hunting for clients all the time, and I've systemized my law firm to a point where I have a specific intake process. I have technology out there through videos. I don't have to sell much anymore. People watch the videos and they literally call me to sign up. Hey, where's the link that I can sign up? So I have effectively given myself more free time. And that's one of the things that have come out of this. And so the core tenets, I have 3 core tenets in my business that I tell people. Revenue, of course, everybody needs money to do what they want to do. That's one. Impact, because you're changing people's lives, but also having more freedom. And so revenue, impact, freedom is what I focus on. And freedom through technology, freedom by not being able to hunt clients, by having more consistent revenue. If you have 120,000 US per year, 10 grand a month, and this specific program from Google, for example, they give the equivalent of 120,000 US in their currency. So if you're in Canada, that works out to 165,000 Canadian per year, or in the UK, 7,500 pounds, or in Australia, 3,000, almost 165 or 170,000 Australian dollars. So massive amounts of money that most lawyers are probably not even spending right now, right, to get clients and to get their message out there and to advocate for their cause. So it has a massive benefit.
Many lawyers are not even spending that to run their entire practice.
Right. And imagine month in and month out, you have access to that where you don't have to pay a penny back. And so you're effectively getting clients. You just focus on the education. You focus on your work, getting better at what you do, presentations or whatever type of knowledge they want to share. And you just get sharper and sharper year by year, month by month, and you don't have to pay a penny back. So with this system, I mean, I haven't spent a dime in advertising from my pocket in the last 5 years. And I've had more business than I could ever imagine. And I do all sorts of things with it, not just getting clients, but I build online databases for people in different niches. I have, free courses that are designed for sharing. I have a membership group. I have people coming in to donate money for a specific cause. And so we go out there where we can focus on impact. Last year, I was able to get almost, 50 people out of gangs in LA by focusing on entrepreneurship and going and giving seminars and teaching, quote unquote, gang bangers that, hey, there's a different alternative lifestyle with all the technologies available. So these are real impact driven missions that you can, plug into the nonprofit, and all that eventually comes back into you being the authority, you being a person who's not just focused on money, but it cares about the public, giving back to society. And it's good karma at the end of the day too, things that you want to do anyway, right? Everybody has these dreams about how do I give back? And this is an avenue that the companies are paying you to go have an impact. So, and so that's the key. It's just to follow the steps so that you don't miss anything. You don't jump ahead of the gun. At the same time, being focused on what you do and get sharper with this entire process, and using technology, of course, to amplify everything they're already doing.
Yeah, one of the books I love to promote is called Living Forward, and it's by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy. And the book is all about creating a life plan for yourself, because if you're not intentional about what you do, you're just going to allow life to happen to you. When you get to the end of your life, you're going to be really upset with what you created and what you missed out on. So one of the exercises in the book is to sit down and create your own eulogy. So basically, what is it that you want people to be saying about you when you die? And going through that exercise is extremely powerful. And one of the things that it highlights is it really makes you think about, what do you want to be known for? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? And for many people, that's something that you haven't even begun to fulfill when you go through that exercise. You haven't even started the process. And what you just said about, impact and people, wanting to make a difference, really highlights that, because if we're really, really honest with ourselves, we're not in this just to make money. That's not,
Right.
if we just went to work every day to make money and that was it, we'd be living a very hollow life. Everybody wants to help people in different ways. Everybody wants to make a difference in the world in different ways. And you have to get really clear on what that is for you and see if this is a way that you can allow that to happen for yourself.
Absolutely.
And then I want to switch gears for a moment. I want to point out that the purpose of me bringing Sid here was to talk about grants for lawyers and being able to get free advertising. But in this conversation, what's happening is Sid is demonstrating to you how he has taken a law practice and implemented a full information product pipeline in front of it to grow his law practice and blow it up into something massive. And I just want you to use that as proof to everything that we're using today. Everything we're showing you today is, if you position knowledge and education at the front end of your practice, and you can make money doing that. It doesn't need to be free. You can get advertising for free. You can have a free component that you're doing through your nonprofit, and then you lead them into paid products where you're educating them even further. And then some of those are going to elevate and go and become law firm clients. Like in Sid's Grant for Lawyers program, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you have different options of the level of support people get in doing it. And at the first option, it's basically do it yourself. And you teach them through a training program that you've created how to do it. You're making money on teaching people how to do it themselves. There's also the option of having it completely done for you. I, for example, I'm going to be using Sid to do this for my business, and I'm doing the completely done for you. I don't have time to sit there and do this myself. Sure, I'd like to know how to do it, and I'd like to go through the process, but it's just not something that I want to be busy with right now. So I'm going to have him do it. So he's got this information on the front end. He's educated me on the possibility, the opportunity, and I'm going to turn around and say, here, do it for me. I'm going to become a client of your law firm. Are there other people that do what Sid does? Maybe, but I'm not looking for them. And that's the point. The point is that when you bring somebody in through education, when you bring them in through helping them and increasing their knowledge and getting them through some sort of pain or challenge, they're not looking for somebody else. They want you. And that's the key to this whole thing. That's why this is so powerful. Not because it's another way of bringing people in. It's because it's going to bring people in who are dying to work with you. Imagine if every single client is your dream client. Imagine if you never have to chase another dollar to get an invoice paid. People who come in through your platform, come in through your audience, come in through having had interactions with you already, they look at you on a different level. They position you on a different level, and they think it's a privilege to work with you. Imagine if all of your clients felt it was a privilege to work with you. And I think that's where we need to start opening our eyes and seeing what's going on. And I really, I'm appreciative of the fact that through the silver lining of what you do, we've been able to highlight the possibility that this can create. Now, let me ask you, is there anything else that we need to know in this process or what it looks like? Or should we just tell people where to go to find out more information on how to get started?
I think one last thing that a lot of lawyers now are also looking for, especially in this digital era that we live in, especially with COVID-19, changing the way business is done, is thinking about a virtual law practice where they can, number one, save money, but they can do this on a global scale, even if it's not global, even if it's within their city or their state or country, whatever it is. This sort of unique structure allows you to do that, where you're compartmentalizing different components of your law firm in different ways. And, I went from having a physical office when I was in California, you see the sign there, to, like a huge practice on Pacific Coast Highway with a ton of employees. And once I discovered this process, now I have virtual assistants, virtual paralegals from across the globe. And through this process, we've had so much revenue come in that we've been able to go out there and hire, like I have 12 people in my practice now that work, all different components of the business from across the globe. And I can see where, like, I have somebody from the Philippines, I have somebody from India, from Venezuela, from Mexico, a couple of people from Kenya who do different things, and they're amazing, smart, educated people who are looking for opportunities. So I know that on one side, it's just making more money, but also on the other side, I've been able to get rid of this, this thought process of I need to have a law firm, and I need to get clients in front of my eyes and physically to meet them and shake their hand. COVID has taught us that the world is changing, and I think more and more businesses are now understanding the power of technology. So this is a unique way to set yourself up where you can go virtual through the courses, through the programs, and of course you can target, through the different advertising platforms who sees your content. But it's an opportunity to create jobs. I mean, we've created 12 new jobs in the last year that I wouldn't have been able to do before. And those people turn around every month and say, thank you, Sid, for changing my life. Thank you. Now I have money to feed my family. And I know the US dollar goes a long way in some countries, but these are all the possibilities that I would not even have thought about, that we're discovering as we do this and get better and better at this. The possibilities are endless, truly. And that's what it is. It's keeping an open mind about your law practice, thinking outside the box, which you've heard before. Everybody's heard about, hey, think outside the box to get more clients and to position yourself. This is that true unique strategy about thinking outside the box, creating your own blue ocean where your competitors are not in that space, where I don't have to go hunting for anybody. People who come into my pipeline, I ask them, have you spoken to other attorneys? And many of them say yes, but I like the way you explain these things. I can understand this content, or I can see where, the impact that you can have through what I'm trying to do is much larger than just one legal transaction. And so you become the resource center, you become top of mind when somebody has a problem. Like that example of the PI attorney who's targeting people with, teenagers driving. I mean, guess what? Somebody gets into an accident, he's the guy who's going to be on top of mind because they just heard a talk about this specific topic. So there are a lot of benefits, a lot of hidden things that we didn't even cover today that come out of this way. And, the worst case scenario out of all this is that if you decide you don't want to go through this, you just shut down the firm and you move on and you go back to what you're doing.
Yeah. I love what you highlighted with the virtual practice and the freedom and the flexibility, but even more than that, and you kind of touched on it, but I want to hone in on this, because many practice areas of law require a geographic presence, right? So if you're in family law, for example, you need to be within a certain distance of the court so you can show up and represent your client. And it becomes very difficult to grow a practice that's beyond, the 50-mile radius of where you're located. And that is a limitation that many attorneys have. And what this allows you to do is within any part of the area that you're licensed to practice, you can target a bigger audience that you wouldn't normally be able to. Yes, they won't all be able to become your clients, but guess what? When you have somebody who wants to elevate to become a law firm client and you can't serve them, you establish relationships with people who can, and now you start sending business their way, and it becomes this amazing circle of goodwill where they start to send people your way. And if they're not doing an information product and they can plug their clients into your information product, that's an easy way for it to work full circle. And you can even think bigger than that. In other words, you don't have to be licensed in the jurisdiction to teach. An education product is not practicing law. So, and obviously you need to check your rules of professional conduct and make sure, don't take my word for it. But most people, when you're educating and you're not giving legal advice, the sky's the limit. You can talk about it anywhere. So you can, if the law that you are talking about pertains to an even bigger area, you have more people, more potential clients that you can be getting in front of in that education piece, than selling them an information product where you're already collecting revenue from them. And some of them will elevate to become a client, and some of them are going to elevate to become a referral that you send to somebody else, who's hopefully now sending people back into your funnel and sending people to you. I mean, look at Sid here, where I'm working with Sid to get my non-for-profit up and running, and I'm highlighting Sid here in front of all of you to get you to become his clients. And that's where, you want to be, in that perfect situation where people are hearing what you do, and they're turning around and saying, check this out, and do this. So it's almost a way of saying, hey, well, these people are my competitors, but all of a sudden they're no longer competing with me, because I have something they don't have that is now even desirable for them to plug their people into and put into my world. So it really creates some amazing opportunity for you that we just haven't done a great job of highlighting and harnessing. And there are other industries that have figured this out, and the legal industry hasn't. And that's why I'm so passionate about this subject, and why I'm spending an entire day here talking about it, because I think that it's a massive opportunity that if you just don't know about it, you'll just keep going about your business, and it won't change anything. But if you do, it could be life-changing for you and the impact that you want to create. So
I mean,
Sid, this
lifetime grants, it can't go wrong.
Yes.
That's the power of nonprofits. I mean, there are grants that are going to be there for the rest of your life through your nonprofit, one way or another. And actually, before we end here, there's something that you said that, struck out to me, how nonprofit education centers are generally not tied into the same legalities as a law firm. In fact, when I started this, I approached the bar, and California Bar is one of the most stringent bar associations in the country. I reached out to them and asked them, can I go and speak to bankers, or can I go get referral sources? And they said, you cannot do that. You cannot go and solicit your business. They have to come to you. And to me, that was baffling, because how do I grow my law practice where I cannot go and ask for referrals? But they had this little nuance that said, well, you can go and you can only do that if you're educating people. And I go, wait a second. So you're telling me that if I start creating educational content, I can reach out to these bankers and insurance brokers and all these guys to come and present, or me go present, or they send clients. They're like, yeah, that's one of the exceptions. And I go, oh, okay. So that's how I kind of ended up here, is by default, trying to get more clients, just like everybody else, trying to find unique strategies. And, now 4 or 5 years later, I've discovered that was the best move ever, calling the bar and asking them. So most countries have certain limitations for lawyers. In some countries, I know, for example, like India and some other countries, lawyers cannot even advertise. I mean, how are you supposed to find clients where you can't even advertise? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so people make an assumption when they see Profit with Law that I'm an attorney, and I'm actually, my background, I'm an accountant, and I'm a business strategist. Like, I help people grow their business, and I happen to work with lawyers. And got into this niche, and I really know my audience at this point. But what's funny is we were running ads into this summit, and somebody commented on one of my ads saying, hey, you're not allowed to solicit business. You're not allowed to be running this ad.
Right.
And that's, and to me, that was, that highlights what you're saying, and highlights this point that you are probably, many of you are in a jurisdiction where you're literally not able to use Google ads and Facebook ads. I mean, in the US, we've already moved, most of the bar associations have moved to allow a certain level of advertising. Like you, as long as you put disclaimers on it that it's attorney advertising. Here in the US, it's already commonplace to see attorneys advertising. There's billboards, there's radio ads, there's TV commercials. It's pretty commonplace. There are rules about what you're allowed to say, not allowed to say, and things like that in different places, but it's become more common. But there's other places in the world where it's strictly forbidden to advertise. And I would encourage you, if you're in a location like that, I would encourage you to look and see if there's any restriction on you being able to educate and being able to advertise that education. And that's why law firms are, there's so many law firms who have been doing blogging. And, blogging has not been this massive in any other industry other than the legal sphere, because that was the only way they were able to do it without paying for advertising, is getting into SEO and people finding them through those blog articles. But now imagine that you have this non-for-profit, it's an educational institution. It is nothing to do with your law firm, and you're teaching people, and then naturally through there, you're getting clients where you're not violating any of the advertising rules, and you're able to strategically bring in clients rather than just hoping that they're going to show up at your door.
Absolutely.
And that's, you can't build a large business on hope. You gotta be strategic, and this is an amazing way to harness that strategy and take that next step forward. So talking about a next step forward, we're wrapping up here at the end of this presentation. Sid, we're going to share a URL that people can go to. Talk us through that process. And that URL is profitwithlaw.com/free grants. Let me just make sure there's an S at the end. Yes, profitwithlaw.com/free grants. And we'll drop that in the comments as well. But if you can just tell us, what will people see when they get there? What are their options, and so that they understand what the next steps are?
Absolutely. So the first step in this whole process is setting the vision. So what we do generally is to create, and we've nailed it down to a science and a real art at this point. So just setting the broad vision of the steps involved. The first step generally is to restructure or structure your practice. And so how does that educational component look like? Next step is obviously registering the nonprofit in whatever country you're in or whatever state you're in. So the registration requirements. In most countries, it's pretty straightforward. I've never come across a problem, and we've done this, almost in 25 countries now across the globe. Once the registration happens, simultaneously, we're starting to compile the content. So creating a different website, your own educational website, and it could be a foundation or institute or center. And so we're creating the content there. And again, it could be a podcast, blogs, articles, courses, programs, whatever, presentations. There's, education, spreading education is limitless, right? There's so many different ways to do it. And so we create that structure. Once that happens, once it's approved, once we have all the pieces in place, that's when we go and do the grant applications with the different tech companies like Google and LinkedIn. And finally, once you have the grant, we structure it so that there's an ideal synchrony between the way you attract clients, educate them, and then the follow process and the way you turn that into profit on the for-profit side. And, this system has been going on, whether we unconsciously absorb it or not. If you look at every large company, from Honda to Starbucks to Panda to universities, they all operate, think about a university or law school. You have Starbucks, you have Domino's, you have Pizza, and all these different for-profit companies that operate within a nonprofit so that their patrons can have the information and go about their day in a more successful way, right? And it's already around us. We all have absorbed it, but never have thought about, hey, how can I utilize the system in my own practice? So all we're doing is kind of going through that process and streamlining that in a way that can be absorbed and easily implemented. In terms of time limits, the longest that it takes really is 1 or 2 months to set it up. Almost every country is pretty quick on this. Paperwork is, for the most part, digital. I mean, most countries turn around and approve nonprofits in a week to 2 weeks. So literally in like a month, you have grants pouring in. Some countries a little bit longer. I think US is probably one of the longest it takes. We're talking a month and a half to 2 months. But in 2 months' time, you have the possibility of getting a business funded potentially for the rest of your life. And so it's a great opportunity.
Awesome. So folks, if you have any questions for Sid, feel free to drop them in the comments. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of the day, and we'll try to address them there, or you could just attend that Q&A live. And also, if you want to take the next step with him and get free grants for your law firm, you want to implement this piece of the puzzle, you want to go to profitwithlaw.com/free grants. And Sid, it's been a pleasure. Ever since our first conversation, I've really been thinking about how to help the people who are tuned into me, how to help them with getting you positioned in front of them in the right way. And I think that this summit was the perfect opportunity. And I'm really glad that we're able to bring you in here and have you be one of our sessions. And I'm sure that people are getting a ton of value out of our conversation. So I really appreciate your time and spending that time with us.
Thanks for having me here.
All right, folks, we'll see you on the next session. Take care.
Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.